Today, Scorched Toys at anymoon.com is taking a closer look at what is bound to be a highly coveted collectible, Bandai's DX VF-1S TV version Roy Focker Custom. This is the 5th release in the DX line, and I've reviewed each version, so check out my previous reviews to do a deeper dive. Released in November 2020 for the bargain price of just 18,000 yen, pre-orders of this toy sold out the moment they were listed. If you want one, look to the secondary market and expect to pay a premium. If you collect anything else, you can support this channel and shop a huge variety of products by heading to Big Bad Toy Store by clicking the link in the comments below. If you weren't able to grab one, patience may be a virtue. Bundled with this toy is a special first release bonus banking display stand, which provides some hope for later reissues without the stand. You may remember that the VF-1J Hikaru was the same sort of bundle. This banking display stand is very similar to the one that accompanied Hikaru, but has a reinforced arm and an adapter which allows the toy to bank in 2 less severe angles. I'll show you that in a bit. Like the first DX VF-1J Hikaru toy, the box for the banking display stand stays bundled with the retail box for the Valkyrie via a sleeve that covers both. The retail box is made of sturdy cardboard, is decently attractive, and has about half the girth of the boxes Yamato used for their old, similarly sized 1/48 scale VF-1 toys. Inside that cardboard, you'll find instructions atop a couple of plastic trays. No, this toy doesn't come with that sweet sticker sheet that was included with the Kakazaki toy. Inside the first plastic tray, you'll find the Valkyrie as well as a pilot figure, the gun and gun strap, 3 pairs of movie-style hands, a pair of intake fan covers, 2 Gerwalk antennae, one's just an extra in case, a Batroid mode display stand adapter, a display stand arm, a tool for disconnecting the legs in Batroid mode, a pair of side cavity fillers, and a pair of TV-style hands. Why do TV releases include 3 pairs of movie-style hands instead of more TV hands? Probably so Bandai can sell us a special hand set later exclusively through their website. While that might sound far-fetched, if you want missiles or super parts for this toy, you will have to track down those website exclusives separately. The TV-style super parts are coming soon, but you can see my reviews for my movie strike parts and missile accessories by clicking the cards now. In the second tray, you'll find the base for the display stand and the Gerwalk and fighter mode adapters. Here's the included banking bonus display stand. You can see all the extra ridging here. It's going to make the toy a little stiffer when it's on there. It won't sway as much back and forth, which is a good thing. The way this display stand works, let's see if we can get this focused well. Some pretty good grip on there. There's a thin little ridge at the bottom here. And there's a thin little groove, or few grooves, at the base here. So whichever groove you choose determines the angle of the display stand. So you have your straight option, which is always a little weird because there's always a little twist to this arm, so it's never quite perfectly straight. And then you have those 2 banking positions. Now this time they've included another piece, this piece here. And this piece allows you to, here you can see it has 2 ridges. I don't know if I can get that on there. So they're gonna fit on slightly different angle than what we had before. And then you can go ahead and put the display stand again in one of the 3 ridges, and now it's gonna be at a slightly different angle than it was before. Now, one thing here is that the center ridge, you can push this all the way back in and it's gonna work just fine. If you try to go for a real extreme banking, it's gonna run into that adapter. You can do it, but it's not meant to do it. So the adapter slides into little holes on either side of the head and then pinches on there and then slides in, and there you go. So there's the in-between position, slightly banking that you can achieve with this display stand that you couldn't with the Hikaru VF-1J, but that adapter certainly could be multi-purposed. If you wanted to go ahead and throw it on the other display stand, won't be an issue. Now, of course, if the banking display stand isn't your jam, you do get the standard display stand that comes with all Bandai DX toys. You can choose how far out you want your wings, how tucked in you want your wings. The gun can be installed or not installed. You'll see later that gun can stay on there with plenty of clearance with the landing gear. One kind of cool thing here, this little antenna is a spring-loaded thing, so as we transform and bring the backpack over, it recesses on its own without needing to be a hook that sometimes popped off on the Yamato 148 toys, so a little improvement there. You might be watching this video and thinking, what's really the difference between the movie version Focker and a TV version Focker? Aren't they just about the same thing? And the answer to that is close, but not quite. So here is the Hikaru Do You Remember Love toy, and you can see he's got the Do You Remember Love style flight suit on, and there is a bit of a different cockpit. In the interior, you can see there's a blue heads-up display on the interior of that TV version cockpit and a different pilot figure. Now, the pilot figure here is also different from the one that was included with the Hikaru TV version in that it's a little bit bigger, and that's true to the anime where Roy towered over everybody else. And it has another benefit in that it makes him fit better in the cockpit, unlike the Hikaru and Max toys where the pilot figure bounces around as you handle it. Roy sits in there nice and tight. Quickly, let's go through the feature set since I've reviewed this toy several times. You do have an air brake here. There's sparse detail underneath it, but it's a cool feature nonetheless. You do have wing flaps. They're relatively stiff. I don't think you're gonna knock them off accidentally. You do have tons of delicious painted on detail, like those no step warnings. You also have the pilot name up front, so maybe we'll see a Hikaru re-release of this very same toy someday. Prometheus on the vertical stabilizer, that's another difference between the Do You Remember Love and TV versions of the toy. You do have integrated landing gear. The rear landing gear do pivot outward, which is a nice feature. They lock in the forward position, but some lock better than others. And they do have spinning rubber tires, which is nice. You also get these nice clear plastic inserts on the front, the leading door for the landing gear, which is nice. You have intake fan detail. You do have these cover parts for Batroid mode. You have spinning tires up front and an articulated tow bar, and again, 3-door design for the landing gear. The VF-1S toys do have 4 articulated lasers on them, which is kind of cool, but it's also annoying when you handle the toy in fighter mode. Now, handling the toy in fighter mode, it is going to be rock solid for you. Everything tabs together nicely. There are tabs going from the legs into the backpack. There are some pegs that come down vertically into the arms that hold the arms in position, and those pegs work fine for the standalone fighter mode. There hasn't been any change here to make them better for use with the super parts, so that's annoying. I want to see them change them into hooks instead of pegs. So you slide these arms, they lock into position. I think that'd be a big improvement going forward. So we'll keep an eye on that. The DX toy is 1/48 scale, making it more than 30 centimeters long in fighter mode, which is very similar to Yamato's 1/48 scale toys. As you can see in this picture, that also makes these toys significantly larger than their 1/60 scale counterparts. Here's how that shakes out in Batroid mode, where the toy is more than 26 centimeters tall. The added heft of the toy feels very nice in the hand. Now, while we have the toy in this position, I can show you those pegs that the arms attach to and kind of drive me crazy. So when you put the arm armors on of super parts, there tends to be a little bit of pressure that pulls these down. Those are the pegs there. And if they were just hooks, you would be able to bring the arm up and then push it in and it would lock into place instead of relying on friction against gravity. So that is an improvement I'm still hoping Bandai will make to these toys at some point. If liking Gerwalk mode is wrong, then I do not want to be right. Now I've got the toy on the display stand. You can see very basic, no articulation at any point in that display stand. All it's going to do is hold the toy up vertically for you. Now, this toy does Gerwalk mode extremely well. It's got the extension we've seen on other toys. And you can hear a nice ratcheted extension with metal parts there. And you've got that twist point. And then coming down, we have those metal feet, which I'll talk about more once I get this thing off the display stand. You have an articulated booster back here. You have this antenna that you could put on here. If you're a Perfect Transformation fan, by no means do you need to use that antenna, but it does add a nice little visual element. And if you haven't seen my transformation guide, the way the arms come back and then around is really cool. I'm a big fan of that as well. So good things there. We do have the gun. We can pop it off and extend it into this position, and then we can peg on the included gun strap. Let's see here. Should give you a little pop to let you know it's in place. And there you go, that's your gun strap on there as well. The pegs are a much better system than Yamato used, but they might fall out on you like this one is. If they do, there's lots of different ways you could tighten up the pegs, so I'm not too worried about it. The rings Yamato used, much more prone to breaking if you took them on and off, and if you're going to fighter mode a lot, that would be the case. So Gerwalk mode, beautiful, some fun gimmicks. Let's take it off the stand and see how it handles. The hands are on ball joints. You could spin them all around, you could rock them in or back, and that's all good. And then you can pop them off and see that you have articulated fingers with each knuckle, so that's all good. Ball jointed thumb comes around, peg inside that we can put the gun on, and we'll do that in a moment. Here is the movie style hand that comes with the toy. You can see bigger and better in that regard, but otherwise the articulated hands can do all of these things, so that's all good. The only thing the hands can't do is splay out like so. So that's the only thing that's gonna hinder you. The TV style hands, bigger and rounded, looks just like the TV, so I do like using those sometimes. We can put the gun inside that hand. We could peg it in and bring these fingers all around it, and it's gonna get a very nice grip that will do a good job if you take the time to do it better than I just did, holding on like so. There are these fins on the legs. They can be a little bit frustrating because they don't really lock into position. And forgive me for not getting that gun in a very good position either. Let's take that off for now. So these fins, problematic, but what's not problematic is these very heavy feet. They can come way forward, they can come way back, they can rotate a little bit left and right, so that's all good. There we go. And they're super stiff. How stiff are they? I can take this toy back here and I can change the angle of it just based on the feet. So that is really cool. I can also come all the way down like so, which is super aggressive and also very cool. And then you can see, let's bring it back up again, that there is clearance for the shoulder at the wings. Now it might bump into it every now and then, but you can still articulate the arm however you want without the wings being an issue. So that's very cool. You also have the ability to pivot away at the shoulder, so that gives you a little more arm availability there. Twist point above the bicep, and a super double jointed elbow. So you can have so much fun. The metal's gonna make the toy rock solid, and all of that articulation will come together to be the most dynamic and fun Gerwalk toy that you will own. The TV version VF-1S here on the left is a little bit different in the head than the Do You Remember Love version. You can see one of the bigger differences is the size of the neck. You have a much wider neck coming through the back on the TV version, which carries forward to the shape of everything as it gets up to the head itself. And the head itself seems to be about the same size. You have black arrows on the TV version, Do You Remember Love toys. The arrows match the trim paint. As we spin the toy around, you'll see there's a different shape through the visor and kind of where the cheeks would be. Let's get these toys about the same level. So the TV version on the left, this is all very minor stuff. A little bit more of a thinner face through here, more of a rounded look. Here it's more, I would say more like a knight's helmet with a sharper line down the center. slightly sharper lines to the visor. And if we look down on the heads, a little bit more defined notch where this top part comes through. But again, incredibly similar. I think for most people, if they weren't told that the head had changed, they'd never notice it. Continuing with the theme of differences between the TV version and Do You Remember Love version, because inevitably we're going to see a Do You Remember Love version of the VF-1S Focker, I'm sure. There are different paint apps on the chest. Here you can see that arrow there, different paint app over here. Here we have some forearm paint apps that are not present on the TV Valk. Modex number on this little fin here, and some red paint apps within the leg, on the inside part of the leg, not present on the TV version. So these are just very minor paint cues that Bandai does to differentiate the two Valkyries. As I mentioned in Gerwalk mode, this toy has big, beefy metal feet, and so Bandai has given us very secure hips here, 3 screws on either side. Hopefully, if anything ever gets loose from holding up all that weight, you can just tighten those screws to get the toy back to how you'd like it. Now there's this big metal swing bar that comes through and a plastic housing on it. This tool that you receive with the toy allows you to pry open that plastic housing. I was able to transform this toy without the plastic housing separating on its own, but that is not always the case. In fact, I'd say it's probably more common that the toy is going to split in two with you. So fans of perfect transformation, that can be very frustrating. You do get this tool, you are never going to need it. A fingernail will be all you ever need, and usually just the weight of those legs is enough to cause that housing to pop open at one point. Why does that housing exist though? If you remove this bar and swing it up inside the chest area, like I've done on this Do You Remember Love version of the toy, that then frees up a waist joint. So here you can see I'm spinning the toy back and forth. So if you're not too concerned with perfect transformation, you can add a twisting point to the waist. If you stick with the perfect transformation version of the toy, the chest and the legs are all connected and you will not be able to twist there. Sticking with the theme of perfect transformation, on this side I've installed the side cavity fillers. They install much nicer than they do on the Arcadia 160 scale toys. They peg right into place. Over on this side I'm not using them, so again, if you're a perfect transformation stickler, you can opt out of using these optional parts and transform the toy no problem. If you got the arms down, it's not going to be that huge of a deal, or if you're looking at the toy from ahead, maybe you're not going to notice it. But for most people, I think it's worth throwing in. We've already discussed articulation quite a bit at this point. You know about the hands, you know about the ball joints there. The head is on a ball joint as well, so you can get sweet cocked head poses, which is nice, and you can also twist the whole neck to get full looking, or just the top portion for a little bit. The individually articulated head lasers, again, can be cool and they can be frustrating. So as you handle this toy, you're going to need to get a feel for that. And if you're doing a photo shoot, you're probably going to constantly be adjusting these, but they will allow you to get that sweet pose you're looking for on the shelf and then leave it alone, which is always fun. The shoulders do allow the toy to spin all the way around, and they're on a hinge so they can kind of come out or in. And if you're trying to reach or for a gun pose, that in helps. And then the out for many dynamic poses. You've seen the twist, you've seen the double elbow, so I won't harp on those anymore. You've seen the waist that we have. We also get this new out joint right here, which I don't even know what to call that joint, but it allows the toy to get this massive spread, really wide stance. You also have ball joints that you would expect from a high-end toy up at the hip, and you can come back. Once you run into the wings, you defer down to the Gerwalk joint. You're gonna get a lot of playability there. And of course, you could always open the wings and do some crazy dynamic stuff that way. You've got the twist, which you saw in Gerwalk, and those incredibly dynamic feet, which are still very heavy, creating a nice solid base for you to have a ton of fun with this toy. The basic display stand is going to get your toy elevated, going to hold it well into position, but it is not going to do anything fancy for you, and you can't use that banking display stand. The knee is only going to give you 90 degrees of articulation. It'd be nice if there was a second joint here like we have on the elbow to get that full 180, but that's the only weakness from an articulation standpoint. Still easily the best VF1 toy on the market, and also very easy to recommend, and also very hard to find. I can't help you with that. You're going to have to hit the secondary market. These things sold out like instantly in pre-orders, so you're going to probably have to pay a big premium to get your hands on one today. Check out anymoon.com for my full article. Also subscribe and keep posted on the latest Macross and Robotech releases. And who knows, in 2021 I might dabble into some other licenses. Thanks for watching.